I wasn't sure which phone to go with, so hopefully in the next few days I'll make a decision on which one I'm going to use full time. But let's first check out the S25 Ultra. Can't really say this is my favorite design as far as the packaging, but it is what it is, I guess. You've got the quick start guide. Not a huge surprise, but you've just got the charging cable inside the box. Now the color is called titanium Whitesilver. And yeah, it looks pretty much like that in person. Definitely looks like a light gray color. It's close to white, just a little bit of gray there. You can see it's a little bit different welcome screen. Definitely a little bit different style now. How the edges are squared off, a little bit more boxy. Here's a quick size comparison next to the S23 Ultra. It's actually a little bit thinner, a little bit shorter as well. Probably the best part is it's a little bit lighter than my S23 Ultra as well. I still think the cameras look a little better on the older phone. Of course, that's kind of personal preference. I also like that it's got a matte finish around the edges where it's super shiny on my S23 Ultra. You can see the S Pen is definitely a little bit darker gray to it. You can also go up to 1 terabyte of storage on this one. Here's what the new lock screen looks like. I gotta say, this is looking pretty good. The fingerprint scanner seems to work pretty good on here. We'll see how that goes after using this a little more. You get a slightly larger 6.9 inch screen on this one versus the Plus. Same resolution though at 3120 by 1440. It's also 2600 nits brightness on here, up to 120 Hz refresh rate. Still using the dynamic AMOLED 2X display. It's got the same resolution at 3120 by 1440. As far as screen quality goes, it actually looks really good in person, as you would expect from Samsung. Of course, you have adaptive and standard for motion smoothness, depending on if you want 120 Hz or 60. Now by default, it's only at 1080p resolution. I'm sure some people want the higher resolution. For me, I'll probably just leave it, especially considering you'll get worse battery life at the higher settings. I don't have the S24 Ultra to compare, but the bezels on this phone look super small. This is on Android 15, One UI 7. I don't know about you, but the recent apps animation definitely reminds me of another phone. I don't know if it's the iPhone or maybe another Android, but definitely looks pretty good. And you'll notice they changed this quite a bit up in the notification center, where you have your notifications on the left-hand side, shortcuts over in the right, and you sort of have to reach up in the corner now. You can't just swipe anywhere. You can now adjust the volume up in the shortcuts. You've also got your media controls, smart things, smart view, nearby devices, modes. Most of the shortcuts are hidden. You just kind of swipe down there in the middle. Then you have access to all of your stuff like Samsung Dex, link to Windows, and so on. And then you have a ton of other stuff that you can add on here as well. Okay, this is pretty sweet. You can even reorder things here as well. You'll also notice under screen brightness, you've got extra brightness and adaptive color tone as well. Looks like the edge panel is pretty much the same as before. Looks like you still get Samsung News or Google Discover left of the home screen. It looks like they've also updated some of the icons like calendar, settings, and so on. You still have a handful of apps from Google, Microsoft, and then of course most of your Samsung ones. They've also got a couple extras like Netflix, Facebook, but you can uninstall those if you want. And of course you have Samsung Wallet down at the bottom. Kind of a bummer, but they only give you one of the wallpapers depending on which color of phone you get. I kind of like it when they give you all colors, but I guess it is what it is. Surprisingly, it's the Google Assistant now when you hold down on the power button instead of Bixby. But you can also change that to be the power off menu as well. Of course, you get the S Pen with this phone. I know a lot of people were complaining that you don't have Bluetooth on here anymore. I can't remember one time that I actually used that, so it's not a big deal for me. I think you're able to get the Bluetooth version though if you want it. It's going to be pretty similar to the other Ultra phones. You've got your drawing assistant, AI select, create note, screen write. You can also add pretty much any of the other apps as a shortcut as well. I know for me, I just like to use the S Pen moving around the software. I feel like you still get a lot of features with the S Pen, like Air Command shortcuts, Air View, S Pen to text, screen off memos, quick notes. It's also going to remind you if you forgot to put the S Pen back in the phone. Keep in mind, this is one of the last phones with a stylus included. So if you like drawing, taking notes, and that kind of thing, I would enjoy it while you can, because who knows how much longer we'll have this. You get the same 12 gigabytes of RAM in this one as the Plus. Not a huge surprise considering this has the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. You can see in performance how much it's improved from the S23 Ultra. I even threw in the iPhone 16 for good measure. The multi-core score has almost doubled since the S23 Ultra. It's almost double the GPU score as well. So of course you can play games like PUBG Mobile, Asphalt Legends Unite, and pretty much any other game in the Play Store. I think if you're someone who plays a lot of games on your phone, it's going to be pretty tough to beat this as far as performance and gaming goes. So far the only thing that I've seen that hopefully gets fixed with an update is I couldn't connect my Xbox controller through Bluetooth. Luckily you can just use a USB-C cable, but yeah, hopefully they'll fix that shortly. I know some people think you need 90-watt super fast charging on this, but you have to keep in mind for the people that are going to keep this 7 years, I feel like that's just going to wear the battery down even faster. I started to run my typical battery drain test, and after 12 hours, the battery was still at 55%, which is pretty crazy. I'll have to do some more testing within the next couple days to see what it ends up with. The speakers on here are nice and loud, especially once you turn on Dolby Atmos. Here's a quick sample just to give you an idea of how it sounds. You've got a 50 megapixel ultra wide, 200 megapixel wide angle, and a 50 megapixel telephoto lens on this one. Plus you've got 100 times zoom. In the camera app, you've got portrait, photo, video. Under more, you've got expert raw, pro video, night, food, panorama, slow motion, hyperlapse, portrait video, dual record, and single take. Looks like you can shoot up to 8K 30 frames per second for video recording. It's also using HDR for video, except for 8K resolution. And of course, you have a ton of different options when zooming in, all the way up to 100 times. Here's a few samples of photos and video, just to give you an idea of what to expect. As you can see by these photo and video samples, you can get some really good results, especially in portrait mode. If you look close to the edges, it's not going to blur everything perfectly, but definitely seems like a nice improvement over some of the older Galaxy phones that I've tested. Just my short time with this phone, I really like the build quality, the lighter weight, the flat screen is nice, and it's pretty comfortable to hold, not to mention the new One UI 7 software. I can easily see this phone winning Phone of the Year because it's easily one of the best phones that I've tested so far. If you like phones, tablets, and other tech, I've got a lot more stuff that I'm working on, so keep an eye out for those upcoming videos. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.